this. I'm going to record it.
Jesus Christ died on that cross over there. He is the reason why we have to worship old and young. Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. We have built and allowed you your mosques in this country.
Let me explain the call for the prayer.
It's a battle with the demon. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Get up there on Christian Mingle, create a profile, and start trolling.
No, I hope nobody has your back on this one. You sick bastard.
We're practically NPR. Welcome to Atheist Airwaves, your no-filter look at current news and issues facing atheists and the atheist community. And no, we will not be talking about Rosetta or that stupid fucking shirt.
Yay!
No, there will be no complaining about that. I'm Christian Ferris.
I am Arturo Alfaro.
I'm Reb Spence.
And I'm Susan Turpin. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching for Atheist Airwaves. We record live every Tuesday at 7:30 Central, so if you're listening via podcast, we encourage you to join us in the Ustream chat room and participate in the show.
Our intro audio this week is everyone's favorite crazy lady, Christian author and Monster Energy drink crazy person, Christine White, who interrupted the first ever Muslim prayer service at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. this week. And what I didn't know was that she's also the same person who was out protesting gay people and had a gay person throw a slushie at her. So she really gets around with this stuff.
So she got gleed?
She did. She got Rachel'd.
It was like the frozen version of getting gleed. I don't know. It's a slushie.
Wasn't the other one a slushie too?
I thought it was also.
Oh, was it? Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know.
anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
You ruined it.
I kind of reversed Ferris it. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to say about this lady. So she basically got in there and started screaming as soon as they started doing their prayer service. They had really tight security at this thing, and I'm not even trying to be funny about it. I mean, they searched everyone, and I mean, not just kind of searched. They were like body cavity searching people who are going into this thing. They checked every person's name against the guest list, and with all of that security, the most internet famous Christian nut job manages to get in and start screaming about Jesus. I'm like this close to going all Alex Jones, this is a false flag operation on him because it just doesn't make sense.
Please don't, for the love of everything.
Well, didn't she sneak in a few hours before everything started and hid in the bathroom, right?
Is that how she did it?
That's what it said.
That seems like really not tight security.
Yeah.
She was, somebody's going to lose their job as a result of this, or at least I hope so.
I don't know. So the other thing is the Washington Post interviewed an attendee about the prayer service, not specifically about this woman. His name is Rashid Makhdoom, which is like...
That's the greatest name ever.
Yes.
It sounds like it's something from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Some
right?
Irish evil wizard or something.
Makhdoom.
Okay, that
Or
was not
Scottish.
usable.
All right. So Makhdoom said that he believed that the message and symbolism of the event will reverberate throughout the world. And yes, I agree. And the message that's going to be reverberating throughout the world, because no one is going to listen to him. I mean, it would have been a footnote. But because this woman stood up and started shrieking in her crazy rant pants, the message they're going to receive is that American Christians are assholes who want you kicked out of your country.
Basically.
Yeah. So...
Would that be so bad?
Yes.
We're just going to choose to not respond to that one.
I just, we've got bad enough problems with Christian-Muslim relations or Hindu-Muslim relations, and that's not entirely due to Christians and Muslims. A lot of it is, but not entirely. But this doesn't help. I don't know what she hoped to accomplish. And so, of course, other Christians decided to pile on and react negatively to it. The Reverend Franklin Graham, who is the head of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, posted on Facebook to over 60,000 likes that he felt that it was sad to see a church open its doors to worship anything other than the one true God of the Bible, which just, I facepalmed so hard because you guys worship the same God. It's the same bloodthirsty asshole. You're both worshiping him. You have a theological difference. You don't have a religious one. You both believe in the same God who told Abraham to kill his son because it would be funny if you did that. That is the asshole that both of you believe in. There's no separation there.
You know, this was held in a Episcopalian church.
Yes, it was
Yes.
It's Episcopalian. Yeah.
So it does seem kind of weird that they would host like a Muslim.
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know. I couldn't find for the life of me why that happened because it does seem weird to me as well. I mean, the most reverend high guy was saying that it was a gesture of peace and unity between Christians and Muslims, and that's the reason he gave. But I don't even know how that begins to come across.
No, it's kind of like, I don't know, would you do that for like a Satanist or like some other the biggest religion in the world religion? It just seems weird. It's like, we want to build bridges with, Hindus and Buddhists and atheists, and we want them all to come in and pray together. I don't know. Just
they probably wouldn't let us in. They probably wouldn't let the Satanists in, but I bet they would let Jewish people do their Jewish thing there. I bet you they would let Hindus in there. Well, maybe not Hindus because they're polytheists, but
Anybody who's a monotheist.
no, it just seems like it would be sacrilegious. Like so to kind of agree with the guy, I was like, it does seem kind of weird that they would allow Muslims into their church to pray. I don't know, to their Muslim God, and not to their Christian God, unless it's like some weird trick to like, aha, you were praying to our God the whole time.
I don't know. Does anyone know anything about Episcopalians?
Yes.
Okay, are they crunchy this way or what?
They sort of like to tote themselves as one of the slightly more liberal religions, but they're an offshoot of Catholicism, so they're not really.
Well, everything's an offshoot of Catholicism.
Well, I
on the
mean, like a
Christian side.
direct, like their Church of England, essentially. This is just the
Like 1 degree of
American
separation.
version. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're freaky.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I mean, maybe it is just that they're a liberal church, and that's why they decided to do this. But
that's
it is
what
weird.
I would think.
I felt it was important to kind of talk about that lady, though, 'cause she is
Yes.
quite possibly one of the weird, like she's so weird. Even her family and her kids and her husband have abandoned her because of her just absolutely crazy mindset.
Yeah. I mean, they took her out and they kept passing her along, and then they dumped her out on the street. They didn't arrest her. She said she thought she was going to be arrested. They didn't. They dumped her off. She got in her car and she drove all the way back to Tennessee, where she lives, in her car because none of her family, her husband, won't have anything to do with her because, her husband divorced her over a spiritual conflict, which I chose to interpret as because you crazy. Some days the cray don't pay, man.
And apparently she lives in her car now. And I'm just, I think we're all thinking it, but I'm pretty sure we all want her car to get jacked, right? I mean,
Just get towed, so she has to live in the police impound or something.
Can you imagine if she got carjacked and she was still in the car?
They would leave her and the car there. They would be like, this is not worth the trouble, guys.
The guy would just blow his own head off right there in the car. 5 minutes tops of her talking about how Monster Energy drink is satanic and don't drink it because you'll invert the cross.
but if her car got stolen, there'd be a huge outcry. People would raise all this money, get her like a Hummer for Jesus and shit. It would be crazy.
So
Hummers for Jesus is like a totally different thing.
So they love her on WorldNet Daily. That's the crazy conservative newspaper out there, the website anyway. They just love the hell out of this lady because they are crazy. They're like the 9/11 truthers. They love Louis Gohmert, who also had wonderful things to say about this, the Muslims being in this church, of course. Anyway, let's move on to some real news.
Oh, before we go to that,
Okay.
Jeff was saying in the chat room that that church is actually the National House of Prayer that Congress has been.
Yeah, but it's not a public building. It's a private building. Because I looked this up because I was trying desperately to figure out exactly what you're saying, which is why the heck would they let? And I thought initially, if it's the National Cathedral, does that imply that it's a public cathedral somehow and that it's been whatever? But no, it's owned by the Episcopalian Church. So I don't know.
Maybe they're just super cool like that.
Must be. Oh yeah, that's where I got my information too. Wikipedia.
When in doubt, Wikipedia.
Although I love that he's like, Specifically, his quote was, Jeff Grime in the chat room says, Congress has designated the Washington National Cathedral as the National House of Prayer, which is kind of like, it sounds like, the National House of Pancakes or something. Like, that's where you go when you've like...
And hop.
When it's like 2 a.m., you're completely drunk, the hooker stole all your money, you're out of cocaine. Where else do you go but the National House of Prayer?
You just really, really got to pray that something is going to go your way.
I'm so sorry, God.
Can you just make it rain money now, please? So moving on to North Carolina. The mother of a Porter Ridge high school freshman in Union County, North Carolina, recently contacted the school and her local news outlets in protest of some homework her child brought home that supposedly had some quote-unquote questionable answers. Specifically, one of the answers was, most Muslims' faith is stronger than the average Christian. Now, I want to point out first and foremost that this whole assignment that this child brought home was essentially like the worst Mad Libs ever. And it was awesome.
We should do Mad Libs with it because it might be awesome. I don't know.
I think we're going to. I think.
Maybe we'll do that in post-show. I'll work on it
Sounds good.
during the show.
So the parent, who actually wishes to remain anonymous so as to not bring any attention to single out their child in school, she initially raised her concerns with the school about if the world history class is going to be studying Christianity as in-depth as they're studying Islam, saying, if you're going to do it, let's do it right. I really feel there is a spin on this. Now,
go ahead.
The school officials haven't provided an actual completed version of the worksheet with the correct answers and everything, but a spokesperson...
So is what I'm looking at here, because
it's just what the student brought home.
Filled in.
Okay.
Yeah. So we actually don't know if those are the correct answers or not.
Oh, so we don't have the correct...
No,
Oh,
they
okay.
still haven't provided one. But a spokesperson said that the world history class is going to be studying Christianity in greater depth in the coming weeks.
I know, these answers seem awfully specific, and they work really well. So either this kid is a BS artist, which I was one.
Maybe he just
Yeah.
knows how, mad his mom would get if you put certain answers in there. It's like, maybe I don't have to go to school anymore if I make her mad about Jesus and shit.
Right? Hell yeah.
Some of this stuff is like really crazy, though. So, the one you mentioned about most Muslims' faith being stronger than the average Christian, which I'm like, that's just, I don't even know how would you measure that?
Well, I don't see many Christians blowing themselves up and stuff. So.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, that's true.
They weren't really blowing themselves up, right?
They're blowing other people up.
Well, I mean, they're also not taking their slaves and burning them in kilns and stuff.
That's true.
For burning the
Okay.
Bible. So
Okay, so maybe there is a way to say that, so the other thing
maybe
was,
there's a statistic for that.
the one that really, really just made my jaw drop was radical Islamic fundamentalists are opposed to Western civilization's way of life and imperialistic pursuits.
That does seem kind of loaded.
I love it. I mean, that's so great. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that I really wanted to put out, but
That was actually the one that I was going to mention that I really, really like.
It seems like at the end of that, it should be like, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I really like this one. Nowhere in the Quran does it say you will go to paradise if you martyr yourself with a suicide bomb. I kind of like that one.
That's true, because they didn't really have those when the Quran was written. So, touche, whatever. But I do think this is a problem. And we've talked on this show about other parents who had problems with Islam being taught in the schools, and I think we've all agreed by and large that that's appropriate in a historical context. But if these are the correct answers, holy crap, that's a problem.
Modern historical context, right? I mean,
I don't know that
Modern context?
no, I mean, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
What are you gonna do to-
it's history after a day, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm just saying, so the faith is stronger thing, I mean, that's not appropriate for a classroom. Because, to delve into, you and I can sit here and say, okay, it takes a lot more faith to fly a
Blow your
plane
shit
into
up, yeah.
fly a plane into a building than it does to, Jesus, take the wheel, help me find this parking spot.
Yeah.
But in a classroom,
Maybe a
hopefully-
theology discussion isn't the best place to have that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's appropriate. I think that there are. So I guess my if I'm really examining what my thought process is here, the terms they're using seem more at home in Muslim propaganda than an actual factual examination.
Maybe the appropriate answer would have been like more overt violence is caused by Muslim faith bringers or whatever. Then you won't have to worry about getting into a theological discussion.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think, I don't think that, I mean, by any objective measure, does anyone think that we're an imperialist nation? I think that's a misnomer. I hear people saying it because we're not.
Well, we don't really engage in colonialism as
Right.
much anymore.
At
I mean,
all.
you could kind of consider, Iraq and Afghanistan somewhat colonial, but
No.
not really. It's democracy building or whatever. So you're trying to build it up, but I mean, you're not trying to take it over.
Right. That's
though,
not
which is the difference,
imperialism.
yeah.
We're not. We took down Afghanistan. We took down Iraq. We took down Libya, or we helped take down Libya. Those are now our territories. No, we were just like, okay, we took you down. Now please go away and don't bother us again. That's not imperialistic. So, like I said, I just don't think that that's.
Would you consider what we did in Japan imperialistic?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, what would be the argument there? Because
Because we basically ran their government for them and put our people there, and then eventually we said, all right, now you can put your own people there. But
yeah, but that's part of nation building, and that's a temporary solution. I mean, and you can argue that we do it poorly.
well, recently we have done it very poorly.
Yes. So, but I just it reeks of not objective analysis of historical events and just repeating talking points that people might throw out there.
I agree. The rest of it, the rest of the assignment, because it's a fairly lengthy little Mad Libs of an assignment, but I mean, for the most part, it seems to be fairly, historical, focusing on facts
because
about
it was the worksheet was separated into 3 parts, and like the middle one was about like Islamic extremists, and like the top 2 sections were just about like Islam in general. So yeah, that's when it got into the extremes parts where I think you could more make your statement for maybe that section should have not been taught in the school.
Because if you're touting on an assignment, Islam is at its heart a peaceful religion. Yeah. Well, that's. Like y'all said, that's not really.
I guess Christianity is a peaceful religion too.
Of course.
Totally.
If you disregard all the violence that happened inside the whatever. That's a hit on that subject forever.
We want to move back home.
Sure.
Okay. So let's talk about some homegrown stupid. Texas State Senator Donna Campbell has once again proposed legislation that would allow businesses to discriminate against gay people if they just say the word God. It's like the magic word you can say and do whatever the hell you want. I kind of want to digress for a second. Did anyone hear the story today? It was too late to throw it into the show, but the Catholic Church is arguing in a court case that they can't be sued because they have freedom of religion.
What?
Sued from what?
For
anything whatsoever?
For anything that has to do with their religion. So basically, the suit involved is... Sorry, this is a story within a story, people. The suit involved... I didn't read the whole thing. Is they're being sued because of discrimination in hiring. They said that you don't even have jurisdiction over us because our discrimination is religious based, and religious freedom means you don't get to even come to us with this. So literally, you throw the word God out there, and they think it's this magic thing where everything else should just fall.
So can they murder people as long as
it's
okay
right?
with it?
That's kind of what the logical conclusion to their argument is, which is why it's probably not going to work.
Yeah, it's like they don't realize that their rights stop when they start interfering with another person.
So when the Muslims blew up 9/11, that was just religious freedom, right? We should totally allow that, right? It's religious freedom.
But that was before the Hobby Lobby thing, so...
Then after that, then any 9/11 attacks would be totally cool. That'd be religious freedom.
All right. So anyway, getting back to this thing, Texas State Senator Donna Campbell, she actually introduced this legislation last year with Senate Joint Resolution 4, which was backed by the group Texas Values. Anyone want to take a wild guess whether they're a hate group or a values group?
Hate group!
Ding, 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 ding.
Words don't have meanings. I'm Jay, and I hate that way of thinking.
You have totally co-opted these words, guys.
Jay's sick tonight. I guess we should mention that.
That's the reason we are giving him shit.
Playing the part of Jay will be Reb. And Reb will be using his Jay voice.
It's a good impression.
Yes.
I'm actually really impressed with that.
So
I work very hard on it.
So last year when she tried to put this in, the Democrats were pretty cagey about fighting this nonsense. They used the Westboro Baptist Church as a boogeyman to ward off passage of it. So, and that was done by Letitia Vandeputte, who just Pute.
Yes.
Letitia Vandeputte, who just lost to
Nice.
certified psychopath Dan Patrick in the lieutenant governor's race. She argued that if you pass legislation that lets you do crappy things because of your religious beliefs, then you're trampling on the troops by opening the door for Westboro to crap on military funerals. And that was pretty ingenious, I thought, and it apparently worked.
'Cause Republicans love the army, so you gotta.
There you go. Well, although it's weird to me because, not really, because then they, vote to cut benefits. They vote to,
Yeah, but that's hurting the army in ways you can't see. When the Westboro do it at a
That's the
military funeral,
veterans.
yeah. Now you can actually see like veterans crying because of bad people. So now they got us.
No, I really feel like Republicans have taken the military on as it's almost like prayer. If you get what you pray for, God gets the credit. And if you don't get what you pray for, then, God doesn't get any of the blame. And to me, that's exactly what they've done with the military, which is when we stand up and say, oh, this is, you gotta respect the troops. Then they get all, it's like nationalism, and they're all like, yay. But if they do something else, everyone's just like, whatever. There's really no repercussions.
Let's go. We're fighting like 3 different wars right now. Let's cut funding, sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no big deal, guys.
Let's cut funding for the security of our embassy in Libya, and then we're going to shriek, why wasn't there more security? I don't know. Politics ball. I just can't wait for the KKK to show up if this passes and demand protection for their Christian beliefs that black people and Jews shouldn't be served in their establishments. Because is there any difference?
No.
Well,
No.
I thought was kind of interesting about this particular bill is the detractors of the bill weren't against it because, maybe one of the quotes in there was that they were afraid that abortion might one day be considered a religious right. And because of that, it's like, oh, well, we can't allow that to happen. So, no.
But that's what it's widely considered as now. Like, the whole reason that we don't have these clinics anymore
It's because of
across
religious
the country.
persecution, right, yeah.
Exactly. It's because people are using all these religious reasons for, oh no, life begins at conception and blah, blah, blah.
Which really drives home the whole point, because it's not really about freedom of religion. It's the freedom of certain, religions to push their values on other people that they don't agree with.
It's the Christians Only Club, and we're only going to get deeper into that as we go along here. Jeff Crime in the chat room says that, who is a host here and also an attorney, says that he had an attorney representing a Christian church and pastor make the same argument in court, said that the church should not even be sued. But he was happy because he was particularly stupid, apparently. So that always helps when you're in court. Okay, so let's move up to Alaska real quick. This is another kind of a brief story, but I think it's worth making everyone aware that this is happening. The city of Nome, Alaska, may be the first in the United States to start taxing churches. Woo! And why? Because letting them off the hook year after year is leaving them strapped for cash. Julie Liu, Nome's city finance director, believes that despite the fact that the town's population is only 4,000 people, that taxing the churches could bring in $300,000 in revenue annually. Can you imagine what that would mean to a quote-unquote real city? I mean, I kind of did some brief calculations, and just using her baseline assumption of $300,000 per 4,000 citizens, Corpus Christi would rake in $40 million a year in revenue.
Holy mother of God.
That might pave a road or two, people.
But
Fix some bridges.
still,
Plus, we have mega churches here.
Right?
yeah.
So you can probably give them
Far
more
more
out of them.
churches.
Yeah.
Imagine what it could do for like Houston and Austin and shit like that.
40 million is probably on the conservative side for a town like this. It could never happen in South Texas.
For a town named Corpus Christi, you would expect there to be a lot of money come from churches.
I wonder if that isn't the way to make it more palatable, though, because we have, for those of you who don't live in Corpus Christi and have never been here, our roads are awful. they are terrible.
Yeah.
They don't take care of them. They siphon the money to other things. Pretty much, you fall into a pit wherever you drive.
I was seeing the other day they want to like bring more movies and art stuff here, which I mean it's cool and all, but like hey, there's other shit to take care of as well.
Yeah. So I don't know. So studies also show that if this idea were adopted nationwide, taxing religious organizations could bring in as much as $85 billion per year every year, which is more than we spend on food stamps annually. So literally, just by having churches pay their fair way, not doing anything weird to them, just the normal pay your damn taxes.
Pay your property taxes, all the rest of that.
Yep. They could actually feed the hungry in this country, like all of them.
Which I'm going to kind of go on a diatribe here, which
Please
that was
do.
kind of the whole point of churches and why we decided not to tax them in the first place. Because they're supposed to perform community services for the poor and needy that need these, food, they need shelter, they need clothes, they need, help to get to their jobs, things like that. That's what the churches were there for, and that's why we gave them these tax breaks in the first place. But it seems like most churches aren't doing that anymore.
No.
And if they are, it's to such a small degree that it doesn't really make up for the amounts of tax break that they get out of it. So,
Yes. So, and that's exactly right. So I was going to correct you because I see them when we go down to the food bank to help feed people. I see church groups there almost every single time. So they're doing it, but we're not collecting money to do that. We're volunteering.
Yeah,
We're
there's
not-
a difference between putting in the money, like having the funding for certain specific programs, and people putting in the man hours.
hiring personnel to man all those things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff that they do, giving people rides and going to the food bank and doing that stuff is based on man hours, not paid hours, like paying people shit.
Money, a wage.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. So that bugs the hell out of me because really, what most of the money that you're giving to your church goes to is two things. One, it goes to feeding, housing, clothing, giving a car to your priests. The other thing it goes to is hiding pedophiles. those are basically the two things, and I think we could tax that without really incurring. But in fact, maybe they could hide fewer pedophiles. Maybe your kid wouldn't have been raped if
The churches were paying taxes.
right. I'm just saying, like that guy who was doing the records in Chicago, maybe they couldn't afford to pay that guy.
And maybe they would have had to just release all the records because they didn't have a filing system for it.
See how this all works? Taxing the church is like the best idea ever.
I find it amazing, though, how this town in Alaska wants to tax churches in order to raise money for the government, and in Norway, the church is having to get money from the government in order to survive.
Right.
Like, that's the difference between America and
Our
other
tax system
countries.
in other countries, yes.
Well, that's the other thing that Nome, Alaska is saying is they're trying to like smooth, unruffle some of the feathers. They're saying, we're in a real bind right now, and we understand that these organizations do good work. So, it'll give basically what the argument they're making is if we make them pay taxes, we can always give it back to them.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, we can just give them a refund if we need to, and in good years we will. But just right now we're kind of broke.
You know what's great for Nome, though, is they're all the way in Alaska, so it's really hard to bus, protesters up there. It's
That lady from Tennessee, the Monster Energy lady, she's
it's a
not.
long drive. That is a long drive.
She is already driving.
Of course, she's living in her car, so I mean it's not
Yeah.
that big. She's going to be there anyway. So
Maybe she'll get mauled by a bear. By a monster.
Monster bear.
Now, but here's the thing: is this isn't just going for churches. This is going for all nonprofits.
Yeah, all nonprofits, yeah.
So, I mean, is there a way that we can make it just so it's just the churches paying it? Because there's bound to be some of these nonprofits that aren't going to be able to.
I went
do
through
it.
I went through this exact same mental exercise because although I got to say there are a lot of nonprofits out there who operate like churches. Like most of their money goes to their staff. It's high salary. I mean,
Susan G. Komen.
Yes. How much money does that woman make?
I don't even.
It's millions,
I don't even
right?
know.
It's
It's, ridiculous.
Someone
And
in the chat room. It's at least the high like 600,000 or something like that. At
very
least.
very little of the money that they receive goes toward actual cancer research.
So tax the hell out of those people, seriously. But I think you're right that I think it's only you. I think you can't just target religious nonprofits. You have to be fair and equitable and do it across the board. And what makes sense makes sense. But it does make me cringe a little because there are nonprofits out there who are really out there just to do good work, and they're not trying to pad their own pockets. I don't know how many.
Laws.
Yeah, but anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat room I want to bring out before we move on. First and foremost, the following in the chat room asks, wasn't there recently a giant tax evasion case that just broke? Everyone was direct depositing their paychecks with the church and then using a church credit card for living and not paying income tax. I have not heard that. So
That sounds like an amazing idea.
We could start the second Church of Atheism. I think there's already a first Church of Atheism. But if anyone out there can find that story, please post it in the Atheist Airwaves Facebook page or tweet it to us on at Atheist Airwaves. Because we'll talk about it next week, because that's a huge deal if that's true. Second thing is Jacob Gossett 5 likens driving on Corpus Christi roads to driving on the moon, and that is totally true.
It is.
Depends on where you are, but for sure that's not at all an exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. And then Kensai87 is trolling me by saying that they're not as bad as Newark roads. New Jersey's awesome roads. You back up, buddy.
That's been like the one thing that I've actually heard about New Jersey is that it does have nice roads.
It does. I mean, like a very significant, New Jersey native, a significant portion of all of the traffic in the United States goes through New Jersey every day. They spend a lot of money making sure that stuff is good to go. And they have winter. I don't even understand how, because like potholes, typically you're thinking, water freezing, expanding, destroying the road. We don't even have,
No,
like,
we don't have that.
Yes. How is our roads this bad?
It's all the big trucks, right?
It could be, yeah. It could be fracking and all
Chances
that.
are.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm off my.
Medicine.
Local politics.
I was gonna say pedestal or soapbox. Soapbox, what I was say, but meds
Medicine's
also.
just a lot better. A little more appropriate.
Okay, so moving on to schools. Montgomery County schools in Maryland have voted to strike all religious holidays from the school calendar next year, which on its face sounds like a great idea. In practice, it's a little more messy. Everything from Christmas to Passover to Ramadan gone. There's no word right now about what they're doing with Festivus, so there's still some hope on that front. But
Well, the holiday's still there. It's just not called that holiday anymore.
right. So like Christmas is called winter break.
Spring break.
Spring break is
Spring break
Easter.
for Easter.
And then all of the Jewish holidays are now known as no school for students and teachers.
That's racist.
which is really catchy, and you're lucky the Christians let you have that. Keep it zipped, or they'll treat you like the Muslims.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
Yeah. Do not. God, I embarrassed that. Okay.
Like how you're just using that for general fuck ups.
Anything that goes wrong, it's embarrassing it. Okay. So, before I get to all of the details about what went down, I want to mention how I first became aware of this story because it didn't really upset me. It upset me later. At the time, I was just trolling. But a major news network, I don't know whether it was ABC, NBC, it was one of those, ABC or NBC, can't remember which, they posted on Facebook the story, and they basically just said they're getting rid of Christmas and Easter. What do you think about that? And so, of course, like all of the Christians were up in arms. There was so much shrieking and gnashing of teeth and tearing of hair. So I trolled in there for a while because that was super fun.
You like doing that.
But I'm so over this clickbait crap because when you read what the actual story is, it gets to be a little
More insidious.
a little more reasonable, but then so there's like a layer of reasonableness over this insidious garbage layer. Mm-hmm. So the Montgomery Board of Education voted 7-1 to eliminate references to all religious holidays in their calendars last Tuesday. And why? It's because Muslims were clamoring for their holidays to be represented. And they've been asking for them to have at least one of their major holidays as a day off, but they just wanted them listed on the calendar. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And Christians only care about religious liberty when it's in defense of Christians.
of
There's
course.
religious
When
liberty.
it's that Christians Only Club we were just talking about. If it's not going to do that, they fold up their God truck and, drive away from the minorities like the atheists and the Muslims and the Jews. Students will still receive time off for Jewish and Christian holidays, though they're just not going to call them, they're just going to have to wonder why we're getting this time off. It's not going to be...
Gee, I mean, I know it's right around the end of December, and I'm really kind of wondering why I'm getting this winter break.
Or all the Christians are going to have absolutely no idea why they're getting off just a random day. It happens to be a Jewish holiday. They won't know. They're just going to have to guess or make something up.
Or maybe just have a friend that's Jewish and live
Yeah,
outside their
one.
own small, closed community.
The one Jewish friend that they have.
I love their metric that they use, where it's like, we're giving them these days off because there's a high level of absenteeism or whatever, which is fine. Okay, I get that. I would like to know what their threshold for absenteeism
Yes.
is, and if so, they should release that and let everyone know what their metric is, and then all the Muslim people just keep all your friends home, throw a big party, have all your Christian friends and your Jewish friends come over, keep all their kids home, and then you can get your holiday.
They tried this. So, the Muslims decided, well, if that's the threshold, if that's the rule they're using, we're going to do it. And they had all the Muslim teachers and all the Muslim kids stay home from school on their Muslim holidays. And the school board went back to them and said, it wasn't that much. That wasn't that big a deal. They said that the absenteeism on that day was about 5.6% and was only marginally higher than usual, which leads me to wonder just what kind of absenteeism do you have there? I mean, that seems high to me. Should that not seem high to me?
I don't know about school absenteeism.
Yeah, I have no idea. I graduated high school 10 years ago and haven't paid attention since.
I don't know. I just seem like, I don't know, that's a lot.
Like I said, they need to get all their friends, all their Christian friends and Jewish friends on it too, and have them all stay home. And then, like I said, they need to know what that threshold is so they can meet it.
So they can trick them.
Yeah. and then when senior skip day, have everyone stay home and don't come. Yeah. So you just get every single day off. Just all the kids never come to school, and you can have every single day off all the time.
Don't go to school, then yeah, wow.
And then it's just a holiday at that point. Not.
All right, so trying to figure out. Okay, so let me get down to that level of yuckiness underneath the level of reasonableness, because we've pretty much covered the level of reasonableness. The board originally, on its original vote, voted only to get rid of the Jewish and the Muslim holidays.
Damn.
And leave the Christian ones intact.
What jerks.
That sounds fun.
That sounds
Right?
That sounds like typical, though, right? I mean, this is like, the Muslims are causing things, so let's just throw the Jews out there with the Muslims, and then maybe they could just keep each other company or something while we have our little party inside.
This makes me sad that we as atheists don't have nationally recognized holidays. Like,
Yeah.
we should
Or
co-opt
even like
something.
an atheist recognized holiday. We don't really have one that we all gather
Carl
around.
Sagan
Okay,
Day.
there was Sagan Day. Yeah.
That's the first time I had ever heard of Sagan Day. And all my many years of being a non-practicing atheist.
You will learn so much.
I just have to imagine that after they voted for that, after they brought that forward, that there was just like one person who was just like, guys,
Hold on a minute, guys.
maybe we want to disguise some of our bigotry under a layer of reasonableness.
Nah.
I think that's how it went down. Either that or the lawyer walked into the room at that point and said, got a thing to say.
You think they lost some Jew friends?
No, because
No?
I don't. Because like I said, I think, who knows? Because they have this Judeo-Christian word that like makes them all buddy-buddy. And then the Christians want the end of the world by, I don't know. It's hard for me to separate those two things, but it just seems to me that if this isn't showing the cards, let's just get rid of the Jews too. If that doesn't tell you where you stand, you are not. They don't look at you as a Jewish person or you as a Muslim any differently than they look at us as atheists. It's you are an obstacle, kind of an abomination that they wish wasn't there. You're kind of a blight on the ass of their perfect lily white Christian
Ass?
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
So would there be one day like a Muslio Christian moniker?
Muslio Christian.
Muslish Christo.
Are we including like Hindus and Buddhists and stuff in this too?
No. Just the big three, because they don't need those other bastards. Forget the Hindus. They don't even make the story. I mean, they're not even being voted on. That's how little they care about those people.
Yeah, that's when you know you're really hated, when you're not even considered.
Right. It's like not even.
I don't even care enough to consider you.
We don't care if you don't care if you sue us. No one's gonna let you win.
Well, what do you guys think the solution to this though is? Should we not name any holiday but still give people their religious holidays, or should we not have any holidays whatsoever, make kids go to school all the time, or should we give kids flex holidays, like volunteer, like vacation days like you would have at work?
What do you guys think? Because that's what
I actually think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's my preferred method.
That's not
Floating holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
essentially.
so the Muslim kids get this day off.
Take off whatever Muslim holidays they want.
Yeah. The Jewish kids take off their days. The Christian kids take off their days.
Atheists can just use them all in one big month if they want, whatever.
That's what I'm going to do with all of my sick days and all my vacation days right at the end of the year. 2 weeks off.
Please forgive little Jimmy for his absence on Monday. It was Monday and he's an atheist.
And he's a fan of Garfield.
Oh.
He just watched, not The Office, I got it.
Okay.
Whatever. Oh, shit. What did I just do?
All right, fix your microphone.
All
right,
better.
now don't touch it again. This
Office Space.
Here's the problem with that though, is that you're also talking about faculty. So 80% of the faculty are going to be Christians. And so although I guess 80% of the kids will be gone, so 80% of the faculty being gone.
Well, if you also think about it, like, teachers have lesson plans, right? And so they go through, they have what they're supposed to teach on these days. If they know there's certain holidays that are supposed to be off for everyone, then they can plan around that. But if kids have, flex vacation days, then, they're going to get through, there's going to be gaps in certain kids' studies that they're not going to have certain, homework that they did or certain lessons that they were supposed to be taught on those days.
They could do it just like regular time off where it has to be approved. They sort of have to, alert the teachers and the administration and say, hey, I'm going to be missing these days. What are we going to be covering these days so I can get these
makeup assignments?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing now, though. So, what the Muslim kids are doing now is they're just not going to school.
Yeah.
And the administration is giving them a free pass and saying, you can stay home. It's an excused absence. It's a religious holiday. Go for it. What the Muslim community is saying is, hey, the Jewish kids don't have to do this. The Christian kids don't have to do this. They don't fall behind. They don't have to do makeup work. They don't have twice the amount of homework after their holy days that we do. That's not fair. I don't know that it's feasible to do it any other way because, like I said, if you have 80% of your faculty that are gone. Although here's the other thing, is that my wife works at a hospital part time, and they have to work holidays. They work on holidays.
People die on holidays.
Yeah. People get sick on holidays. People crash
and in
their
higher
cars.
numbers during
Yeah,
holidays.
right. Yeah. So there's weird. Okay. It's your aura is affecting the microphone now.
Just chill.
So I'm kind of okay. Like I kind of would be all right if there were no holidays. It's like you just go to school your whole time, get a longer summer break.
That's not bad. Well, except that the Christians really what about Christ?
No. But nobody. Muslims want it. Jewish want it. There would be no religious holidays for nothing. It would just.
No. I get that, but what do you do when you're going through? You're in class on Christmas. I mean,
What do you need to open up
you don't,
presents? During the middle of the day, you can't open up when you get home from work or get home from school.
This lady in Tennessee is going to drive up there with bombs. Okay, I mean, no one's going to show up on Christmas.
It's not reasonable. No,
yeah.
We would never be able to sell that in America, but I think that would probably be the most reasonable thing, since really they're all taking those days off for really stupid religious reasons anyhow.
I don't know.
It's like, I love Christmas, but not for like a religious reason.
Right.
And I'd be okay with like just doing it on the weekend instead of having like the whole week. I could deal with that.
Yeah. But I mean, it does get to be, it gets down to this almost like a garage sale of holidays, because if you're going to give Christians their holidays, and then you're going to say, okay, well, there's a lot of Jews, so we'll give the Jews their holidays. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of Muslims eventually, so we're going to like give them, it's like,
then there'll be a whole bunch of Hindus and a whole bunch of Buddhists and a whole bunch of whatever.
So eventually we're all not going to school, which, I mean, we might as well do it in Texas anyway, because the way our schools are. But it's just a giant mess, and I think I can't think of a good excuse.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is, because eventually it's going to get to that point, especially as the Muslim majority starts expanding. They are the biggest growing religion in the world. So,
all right, let's take a break before we move on, because I think the next couple of stories actually feed right into this same idea. I'm gonna fix your microphone again.
I think it's still that cable.
I don't know. No, now it's really bad. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
No.
That's good enough. Corpus Christi Atheist meets every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. This weekend we'll be meeting at Executive Surf Club downtown. If you don't know where that is, visit ccatheists.com for a list of all of our public events. If you're interested in connecting with our affiliates, visit southtexascor.com to connect with any of our sister organizations from here all the way down to Brownsville, Texas. Let's
Moving
talk
on
about
to
hooking up with 12-year-olds.
creepy pastors. So, former pastor and youth minister in Hopewell, Virginia, who was arrested earlier this summer for procuring a sex act by a computer, has pled guilty. Now, he's not getting the sex from a computer itself. He was attempting via the computer. Derek Peacock, formerly of the South Hopewell Church of God, had online communications in which he exposed himself, where he actually sent nude photos that appeared to be from his office in his church.
Wow.
Yeah. Super classy.
Was it a selfie, or did Jesus take those pictures for him?
That's fucking kinky, man.
Whatever you're into. He also had said that he fantasized about having sex with what he thought was a 12-year-old girl and her mother, but in actuality, both were a Christiansburg police detective, both the quote-unquote mom and the 12-year-old girl. Now, Peacock was sentenced to serve 5 years in prison and 7 years probation upon his release. Circuit Court Judge Marcus Long was the one that sentenced him. That 5 years in prison, however, is 18 months more than the typical high end of sentencing in cases like this. The judge decided to go above and beyond the usual sentencing guidelines due to Peacock's role as a pastor. Do you think they were too hard on him?
No.
I don't know if he was so much like, if he was using his capacity as a preacher
if
to,
he was taking dick pics in his pastor chair.
No, I mean,
he originally entered the screen name, the chat room where he met the mom, quote unquote mom, under the screen name Church Guy.
Well, I mean, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he was using his position as a priest to abuse that trust to gain.
It had
influence.
to have come out at some point, though.
Okay, but to Reb's point, we don't know. We don't really have that information. If he did, though, absolutely,
Oh yes.
that should be considered when you go to sentencing.
Is
And
that considered is a priest considered a position of trust, like a
Oh,
teacher or a
yes.
police officer?
they have like confidentiality. They can refuse to
To testify.
Right. I mean, so absolutely it is. And so I think the same thing with cops. In fact, I think cops get off way too easy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you are a police officer and you use your position in the commission of a crime.
Well, it's obviously because you're a public employee who is supposed to be trusted to uphold the law. So that totally makes sense that they should be to the fullest extent of the law. I get that.
Well, and you have. I mean, you can't just say what you're doing is wrong, Mr. Officer. I mean, they can do things to you, and so I honestly think that at least the punishment should be doubled for police officers. I totally believe that. And I think the same thing with priests. If you're using a position of trust, and in this frickin' country,
but
holy crap.
But they don't have any particular amount of power over.
In communities, they do.
Yeah.
But no legal authority really over anybody. Do they? I mean.
No, but it's kind of like the relationship between a teacher and a student.
But
that's still a power. That's still a
but the
position of
teacher
power.
does have like a legal authority over the kids while they're at school. Does a preacher
Or a
have
therapist.
legal
A therapist and
Yeah.
their patient. Same deal. If you're using your position of trust and authority, it's not authority, but it's trust, to commit a crime, I think you should suffer a
So what if
harsher
you're
penalty.
like a fast food worker and you use your position as a fast food worker to get sex from someone going through the drive-thru? I mean,
Good
are you-
job.
I mean, are you using like your position of authority?
No, but it would be like the fast food manager using their position of authority.
Do you trust the people who are doing your drive-through stuff?
I
mean, is that,
You
I don't
really
have a
messed
choice. I must trust they didn't spit in my food.
do you have a personal relationship with your fast food?
There's this one guy at Taco Bell that has like this really, really deep voice. And it's like, man, every time I go through, I hope he's taking my order.
It's dreamy.
It is like that guy should totally be like on like he's got like you know that homeless guy with the magic voice. Or, like,
Yeah.
It sounds just like sounds
Is this the one
amazing.
on Saratoga?
It's the one on Nile and SPID.
Yeah.
I gotta go check it out.
Yeah, the guy has an
Next
amazing
time,
voice.
tell you what, next time you go through, tell him about our podcast and see if we can get him on. It just makes sense.
Yeah, so I trust that guy with my life.
I do want to, before we move on, I want to say that the chat room is very surprised that you're wearing clothes this time. Artie.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Well, I don't know. I kind of.
No, fuck you.
One other little thing that I actually want to point out is that at the time that Peacock was doing all of this, he lived with his wife, 5 kids, his mother, and his stepfather. And the thing is that the kids range in age from 6 to 19.
Okay, so I find his crime completely understandable, and I think they should just let him go.
For living with his mom and stepfather. No, but somebody has got to talk to those kids, though. This isn't. Something is bound to have happened with those kids for him to feel that he has to go elsewhere.
But seriously, send him home, because that's, I mean, it might be cruel and unusual punishment, but sorry. No, I in all seriousness, I agree. If he's, preying on young children, he has access to that many children.
In his home.
Yeah.
And they're all except for one are adopted.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, I'm okay with him having been punished to the full extent of the law.
I am as well. In fact, I'm okay with him being punished in excess of the fullest extent of the law.
I'm pretty much okay with anybody being prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's why it's there, right?
I'm not, because I believe in extenuating circumstances. I'm a big believer in gray areas, and I think that you can kill someone and you can kill someone, and there's a difference between one murder and another one. So I think some murders are not just all the same. So some murders should deserve lengthier sentences, and some are like, I might have killed that guy myself. Maybe just a few years for you.
Well, I don't know. It kind of comes down to like the mandatory minimum sentences. We've seen that they've done more damage than good, but at the same time, it seems there's a gray area. But do we want to leave that in the hands of gray individuals, to determine what? I mean, 'cause these are just randomly elected people that don't have to have any qualifications to be a judge beyond just breathing for the most part. You don't have to be like a lawyer or have any kind of education for the most part to be, a regular just sitting judge. So, do we want to put that much power in their hands? Even though
Whose hands do you want to put him in?
Well, like I said, that's kind of things with like the mandatory minimum sentences. It took that power out of a lot of judges' hands, but at the same time, it also caused a lot of trouble as well and a lot of damage. So
I don't know if I feel two ways about this, because one, I feel comfortable putting it in the hands of someone who has to be reelected. So, but at the same time, I don't really trust the voters, especially in this town, all that much, because they don't seem to really frickin' care. I don't know. I don't think we're going to solve that problem. Kensai87 in the chat room says he's willing to take on the power, and that's as good a solution as any for me. So I say give our chat room... Okay, no, I don't say that. No, that's a bad idea.
You couldn't even finish that sentence before you immediately regretted what you were saying.
Let me say this. If I was given immunity, if the chat room would give me immunity from all crimes, then I'm willing
You would
to
have
do
to
it.
get out of my house right now.
We're cool, man. We're cool. All right, let's move on.
Moving on to Florida.
Sure.
Sure.
Is that in Florida? I don't know. Satanists. I don't know.
Yes, Satanists. So back in January 2013, World Changes of Florida Inc. had set up tables to distribute Bibles. What?
Oh man, I hate the tape delay because the following in our chat room just said he advocates taking it out of the judge's hands and putting it in the drive-through manager's hands.
I trust the drive-through manager more than I trust the judges.
If you trust a guy not to spit in your food, then you can trust him with just about anything.
Pretty much, yeah. He's proven himself to be a good person.
He's a food handler.
Right? He's got a
threw
license
a
for
He
fun.
had all the
man.
power in the world, and he stepped away and just gave him my food without abusing it.
But who's to say he wore gloves?
Or did he wash his hands?
That too.
He's a
All
good person.
employees must wash their hands before returning to their station.
Them's
was
the
his
rules,
mottos.
yo.
So moving on to Florida. Back in January 2013, World Changers of Florida Inc. set up tables to distribute Bibles throughout a number of Orange County public schools. While by itself this could have been considered illegal, luckily the Orange County School Board agreed to let non-Christian groups to allow access to their materials as well. However, when the Central Florida Free Thought community set up their own giveaways, they were told that the material they wanted to distribute, like Sam Harris's Letter to a Christian Nation and Ibn Warwick, is that how you say that?
Sure.
Why I Am Not a Muslim, they were not going to be allowed to give those away. In June of 2013, the Freedom from Religion Foundation filed a federal lawsuit since they totally didn't believe any of the bullcrap that they were being fed about why they weren't allowed to give away those books. The school district decided mid-suit that they were going to allow them to give away whatever books they wanted without actually ever informing them of the decision. So as a result, members of the Satanic Temple actually announced earlier this year that they would file a formal request to do a giveaway of materials about Satanism, which eventually morphed into a single fantastic coloring book called
Which we covered.
the Satanic Children's Big Book of Activities,
It is amazing.
which is available in PDF form online.
Yes.
If you would like to find it, I will post a link in the Atheist Airwaves Facebook page.
I don't believe you'll do that, but
I will totally do it.
I bet
If
you
somebody
won't.
says they want me to, I'll do it. So
go into the chat room.
okay, one person.
To do it. I think that was Reb. But you're not going to remember. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to remember.
You've been called out.
She's
You got to.
she's adding it to her calendar like right now. Are you sure? We're doing a show right now.
No, that's not the one that I wanted. Shit.
Do it.
There you go. Jeff and Petey want you to do it.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. So, the Orange County School Board is finally considering not allowing outside groups to provide religious materials for the students, but the earliest it could vote to change the policy would be late January, early February. Bill Sublett, the chairman of the Orange County School Board, says, "This really has, frankly, gotten out of hand. I think we've seen a group or groups take advantage of the open forum we've had." Which kind of makes me laugh that it's always the Satanists that swoop in to end up
I love this group of
mucking
people.
everything
They're
up,
am-
and it's wonderful.
That they're everything I wish I could be.
So they are considering a ban on all religious material.
on
now,
all of it.
which is
Okay.
good, but again, it kind of offends me because
That it took the Satanists.
yeah. So
Well, then
as soon as they're Christians only, I mean it's
they did it for the wrong reasons.
right. So as soon as just pause for the beer opening. As soon as their Christians only club folded, then they're like, oh, maybe there's something to this First Amendment stuff, and we shouldn't have. No, screw you. In fact, I want like really heinously offensive stuff in there and just say, that's my religion, you jackhole.
Well, I mean, that's how problems get fixed. And a lot of... Sometimes I'm like super optimistic and sometimes I'm super pessimistic. I want to be an optimist, and I want to think that maybe they just weren't thinking through the whole situation
because they don't have to.
Well,
Because they have Christian privilege.
They had never been challenged. So, I mean, and there's a lot of things I'm sure that I believe that I've never been challenged on that are incorrect. And I would like to think in my...
I don't think you're incorrect about much, Reb. I really don't. Not on this level. I don't think you're impacting an entire generation of young people through some incorrect notion you have. I really don't.
But I'm sure that I would like to think that maybe they're not all assholes. Maybe they just thought like, oh, well, duh, of course, we're all Christians. It's not a big deal. And then they didn't think to throw that to not do any religious material until they realized just how bad it could get.
I don't think that... Well, I think some of these people are assholes. I don't think they're all assholes. I think some of them are probably very good people. That's not the issue. The issue is that they are unable to see beyond their own horizon. They have privilege and they cannot see it. They cannot see things. They have no empathy. They can't put themselves in other people's shoes. I don't know how many times I myself, and I hear other atheists say it all the time, how would you like it if we were making your kids pray to Satan? Or, but that's, one nation under,
But that's just
Baphomet.
a hypothetical. It's like, hypotheticals are fun, but it'll never happen.
No.
But then once you actually put it in a position where it might actually happen, then the scales fall from the eyes. Yeah.
Right. Because then they're actually confronted with it. They're unconcerned if you say, this is literally what you're doing to my kid. You would not like it if, little Jimmy over here brought his Muslim religion into your schools, and they're like, well, that won't ever happen. They don't care until it does. And that's a lack of empathy. It is completely being blinded to your own privilege, and it's a bunch of bullshit, and I really hate these people.
Was it lack of empathy or just not...
Yes.
Never having... Literally
never
being confronted with it.
Never having considered other people's point
lack
of view.
of awareness.
That is lack of empathy.
But I mean, this is
privilege.
It's privilege, but
it's like when we were at that cleanup and the kids started drawing crosses on the pillars.
Yeah.
We were like, "Hey, can we draw some stuff?" And they're like, "Oh, we need to take those."
No. Yeah. Now
as soon as they're challenged,
as soon as the atheists want to start drawing things on pillars, they're like, "Whoa! We can get rid of these crosses."
But that's how things get fixed, though, is by being challenged. I mean, I'm sure there's opinions I've had in the past that I would have never changed until they were challenged by some force.
But being challenged is having a Muslim, a Jewish kid, an atheist parent come to you and say, hey, this is how it looks to us from our side, and how would you feel if you were in our position? That's the challenge. What they're doing is not reacting to a challenge. They're reacting to something hurting them. So they can't understand what it means for other people. They only react when it affects them directly. That's a direct lack of empathy. They cannot imagine what it feels like for an atheist parent to sit there and watch them forcing my daughter to pray before a volleyball game. But if we made them do a satanic prayer or a Muslim prayer, you better damn well believe they would suddenly understand that maybe that's not a good idea.
And I guess it's really kind of the way the role I see the satanic church doing. It's like, so while it may be hard for people to empathetically realize what other people are going through, by doing this, maybe it helps reveal that, and maybe that idea will spread further, and they won't have to do this at every single location.
Yeah. Tech Leslie in the chat room mentions that they aren't really changing their opinions, and that is absolutely accurate. We just go back to the other thing. They're obfuscating the issue about the holidays in the school. Everything is exactly the same as it used to be. They're just hiding the names in order to preserve the illusion of... In fact, it's not even the same because, the Christian holidays get winter break, spring break. The Jews get...
Teacher-student day.
Right.
Teacher faculty.
So I mean, it's still they lack empathy. They are I'm not saying they're horrible people. I'm saying they lack empathy, and they're not good people for being that way.
I don't know. I don't really know what I'm driving at. I don't know. I would like to think they're not bad people.
Again, I'm not saying
and
they're bad
not
people.
all like super unempathetic, just not understanding. I don't know. Probably a failure of just having never legitimately had their faith challenged in any way.
Yeah. The following in the chat room nails it, and I only say that because he's reiterating my opinion.
You always say that when someone reiterates your opinion.
He says, no, they wouldn't understand it's a bad idea. They would only understand that this policy has a negative effect for them. That's the only thing that gets through to these people. They don't care about people. They care about themselves. And that's a lack of empathy. And that at least implicitly makes them bad people at some level. Anyway,
Makes them selfish.
I think we're like beating this horse absolutely to death. So let's move on to Colorado, I think. Yes.
Or were we skipping the dish rags thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I took it out because I thought that was the thing that you were talking about.
No.
I was like, how did I not remember the dish rags? Well, let's skip it.
Okay.
Unless someone really wants to talk about dirty dish rags.
To me, it seems a lot of the same old tired arguments.
Is that a yes or no?
No.
Okay, I don't either. Okay.
That was me saying no and stating why no.
Yeah, I got it. So this is a weird story because I find myself almost kind of sort of agreeing with the Alliance Defending Freedom. And if you don't remember us talking about these guys on this show, just hearing the name, you know that they're a bunch of assholes. But we talk about them at least in passing every week here. They do crazy things like denying the First Amendment exists and stuff like that. This week at Pine Creek High School near Colorado Springs, Colorado, they have at that high school they have what they call a seminar period, which is sort of a free period, but it's also designated as instruction time. The student handbook describes the period like this. Seminar is an opportunity to develop a sense of community, to build lines of communication, to provide community and school services, and to have focused academic time. In addition, students will often have time to access the resources available to them at Pine Creek. These include peer tutors, teachers, counselors, administrators, and the library. Club meetings may be scheduled during this time. So the trouble started because religious student groups started meeting at this time, which is sort of skating on that line between separation of church and state by devoting instructional hours to the promotion of religion. And so the school went to them and said, everybody can meet, but you have to meet before school or after school hours. Now the Alliance Defending Freedom is suing the school for violating their students' rights. What do you guys think? How do you fall on that?
Well, like they're just a bunch of students getting together to pray, right? I mean,
well, it's right, but I mean, these are student clubs, so
ran by a student.
Well, but they have faculty and staff advisors.
But the faculty staff advisor isn't running the organization. She's usually ran by the president. They're just there just to make sure like none of the kids are shooting each other.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, so.
But you're using instructional time during school hours.
Well, it's not really an instructional time. It's study hall for the most part. So
I think
you
if
can
they're
do whatever
going,
you want. I mean, you can read the Bible if you wanted during study hall time, right?
Sorry, I was laughing at your cat.
What's the cat doing, and
like,
why are you?
You can't hear the bag rustling.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry. Say that again.
So I mean, you're allowed to read the Bible during study hall time, right? I mean.
Oh, sure. So if you're doing something on your own, I have no problem with that. If it's a free period, fine.
So what if like two students
you're-
are reading the Bible together?
No problem with that.
Three students reading the Bible.
three students.
All right. So my issue would be that frequently these are not student organized organizations. They're student run, but I mean, I don't know what schools have.
I mean, are they bringing in like guest speakers? I could maybe see a conflict there. Like, oh, we're bringing in the local pastor to come in and give us a speech or whatever. I could kind of see like maybe.
I have no problem whatsoever with students and religious speech during school hours if it's appropriate for them to just be talking about whatever. No problem with that whatsoever. But if you're talking about a national organization like the Baptist Student Ministry or Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which are nationally run organizations designed to promote their religions, I got a problem with that occurring during
So what if
hours.
it's like a Magic the Gathering club,
Yeah,
and
no,
that's a nationally sponsored organization that they push their own game down? I mean, it's the same thing.
No, because there's nothing in the Constitution about Magic the Gathering.
See, but the thing is, what I understand about this whole thing is that it's not technically a club. The way that I understood it from the article was that it was just a bunch of kids getting together and singing worship songs and praying.
It's their student club.
It actually is the club,
yeah.
though?
Yes, it is. And that's the problem. So let me add a layer of complication to this. Because when the Alliance Defending Freedom contacted the school sent them a letter back and said that the club meetings were only because this was instructional time, which Tech Leslie in the chat room is pointing out.
I mean, yes, it technically takes place during the
right.
hours where kids are supposed to be instructed, right? But
that when
study hall.
When they're talking about club meetings may occur, they're talking about the chemistry club or the math club, curricular club meetings can occur during this. So
so like UIL and crap like that.
I don't know what UIL is.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what it stands for. That's been so
Like
long.
decathlon and
Yeah.
like that.
So if it's an academic club, that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about like the juggling club or the.
So is the juggling club not able to meet during this time?
Well, it's unclear.
That's bullshit.
Like, so if the Magic the Gathering club isn't able to meet, then I'm okay with this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no. Because yeah. So I agree with that. If it's non-academic, they need to.
If it's extracurricular,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
So this is where I kind of fall on this. Is that if that's the rule that it has to be a curricular club, fine.
But is it even
not,
like
you're not problem. If that's something that they're adding on to kind of defend themselves, like what we meant to say, then you've got a problem. They should have been sued.
Well, is your sports ball team club allowed to meet, like your basketball club, crap like that?
According to the student handbook, yes. According to the letter that the school district sent to the ADF, no. So it depends.
Because basketball would be extracurricular. Academic decathlon would also be extracurricular.
in all technicality, because you have to technically be academically eligible for it.
Well, you have to be academically eligible for a lot of things, like
basketball. You have to be academically
right.
eligible.
But I mean, if it's a learning thing, I think that's fine. I think they deserve to be sued if they put together a sloppy policy that was huge umbrella that covered everything, and then they just singled out the religious group. Then I totally agree with the ADF. If that is the case, if they are singling out religious organizations because they're religious, while I understand why they're doing it, they screwed up in the policy, and
they should go rewrite the policy.
Exactly, and explicitly state it has to be an academic club meeting. I have no problem with those things meeting. Magic the Gathering, I have a problem with them meeting. I do. I mean, Jeff Grime in the chat room said that Dirty Diss Drags would have been better than this. So maybe we should move. Maybe we should move back to the Dirty Diss Drags guy, or just move on to something else.
Move on to something else.
All right. So let's move out of the realm of murky kind of school law and into the wide open fresh air of Christian persecution complexes.
Yay.
Craig and Lori Nordahl are the grandparents of Noah, a special needs fourth grader at La Costa Heights Elementary School in Carlsbad, California. Fourth graders at La Costa get a 30-minute free reading period. They can't play Magic the Gathering. They must read a book. But
there's a lot of words on those cards.
It could totally count.
They could totally sue the school district.
You just bind all the cards and you just kind of flip through them, right?
There you go. So the students can read absolutely anything they want, which is a great policy, I think, because it encourages students to develop a love of reading through, instead of reading what the school wants them to read something that really resonates with them. So I think that's an awesome thing. However, Noah wanted to read the Bible. Okay, so first of all, that sounds like bullshit to me.
I can't think of a single fourth grader who actually wants to read the Bible.
Exactly. Like, who wants to read that thing? But putting that aside for a minute, the Nordals were outraged because they say that 2 different school district officials told them that no, little Noah's heart would be dashed and he could not read his precious Bible during open read, which would be absolutely freaking crazy and a violation of that child's rights, I think, if it were true.
But
the school district comes back and says that's not the request that these people made. These apparent idiots asked the school to use the Bible as the primary tool for teaching their child to read and write.
Oh, instead of like where the red fern grows or whatever?
No, instead of like an actual reading and writing textbook, they wanted them to use the Bible. And so they
he'd
said...
be like copying the Bible and stuff like that.
So they said, no. Because, and I'm not just picking on the Bible or religious people, because I also think that, if a parent came to the school and said, I want my child to learn how to read and write
based on the Magic the Gathering rulebook.
Actually, that would be, in my mind, that would be better. I was thinking Shakespeare. So if they want to do that, like, they would learn to read and write in a really messed up way. The Bible is 2,000 years old. Shakespeare is hundreds of years old. These are not ways to learn how to read and write modern English. So I think they're perfectly...
Although if you were trained from birth to read and write in iambic pentameter, that'd be really cool.
If you survived recess every day. Which I don't think is very likely for you, unfortunately. So, anyway, the really sad ending to this... Actually, the story's not over because they're still going at each other, and the grandparents have got an attorney. But while the grandparents are going all over the media and screaming about these godless heathens at this elementary school, little Noah has quietly been reading his Bible every day in open reading period. So this is like, I'm so tired of Christian liars. And you can try and pretend that they're good people.
No, like there's no defense. It's like I don't understand how they could possibly think that they could win this argument. Like it's dumb. It's absolutely dumb.
I don't think it's about winning. I really don't. I think it's about attention and reveling in this Christian persecution. I think they feel like better Christians if they can talk about how they're being held down and oppressed, like someone's trying to take away their...
So Jesus got nailed to the cross, and look, so am I.
Look at me. Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, this is a very common thing in like group cohesion of any kind of group. And I mean, it's almost like they're out there and someone's trying to take their holidays away and call them things like teacher student day off day, or you don't even get a day off because of your religion. These people lack empathy.
They're all trying to one-up each other with, look at how bad I've got it. No, look at how bad I've got it. And it's silly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what world... Like, if they legitimately... that's what they want to happen, and they want to drive it through the court system so that their son can learn how to read and write through the Bible. I don't know how they would ever assume to actually pull that off.
Yeah,
and again, what the hell fourth grader really wants to read the Bible? And why do they want to? Are they also wanting to use it to teach their kid, like, morals and shit? Because that's a pretty heinous book to try and teach your kid from.
Or they could just, like, homeschool their kid, and they could teach them whatever the fuck they want.
There you go.
I gotta say, like, if I was a teacher, I would say, I could do that. And I would just make them read and write the most heinous... Bible verses.
This is what your Bible's about, kids.
Send them back with what is that, Ezekiel 23:20? Yes. Like, every day. Write this out 5 times. Yes, emissions of horses, little Noah. Genitals the size of horses. Yeah, write that down for Mama.
Maybe the Bart Simpson chalkboard.
She'll be so proud of you.
Is Jake still in the chat room? Or did he bail?
Not that I can
looks
see.
like he
Okay,
bailed.
awesome. Let's just skip talking about his. No. I want to talk about some upcoming events before we finish up here.
We pretty much the only thing we really have coming up is a cleanup this weekend, one with the Burners Without Borders. It's at what they call the Island Shooting Range. It's going to be on Saturday, November 22nd at 10 a.m. on, well, where exactly is it? Just before Padre Island National Seashore.
Right, so just take SPID to Park, it becomes Park Road 22. Just keep going and you'll find it. Go to ccatheist.com and you'll see directions.
That's really all.
And that's really all we have coming up.
we don't really
Besides your
have
poker
anything.
thing you want to do eventually.
Yeah. I'm working on it, and I've got 2 weeks off because of my damn foot. So I'm gonna have details for that next week.
I do have a poker set, it's a small one though, so I don't.
I have them too. So if we combine.
Are you gonna practice or what?
I don't need to practice. I'm awesome.
Or chips on one match.
I'm
We
winning.
have like 3 sets.
Do you really?
So
Oh,
it's
sweet.
Are
So
they
we're all
matching?
good.
Fuck no.
Well, because that's a bit.
Do you realize who you're talking to?
It's like we're all cobbling together our poker sets. We're gonna have all these weird chips.
Yeah, it'll work. All right. We've only got about 10 minutes left. I'm just trying to see what we want to hit before.
Are they matching?
This next one is really
I like
quick.
everything to look pretty. Okay.
This next one is really quick, so let's hit this one first. The UK does not usually have its head way up God's ass the way the United States does, which is why this next one is like super baffling to me. A survey was done of citizens of the UK on which books they felt were most valuable to humanity, and the Bible came out on top, number 1, edging out the closest competitor, Darwin's On the Origin of Species, by 2 percentage points.
At least it was only 2%, though.
It was close.
But the thing is that there were only, 30 books for these people to choose from?
Was it multiple choice?
Yeah. They were essentially having to rank these 30 books, and it's like, how many people do you honestly think really have...
And why did they include the Bible? Come on now.
Right? And I mean, the other books are, stuff like Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking and stuff like that. And it's like, how many people do you honestly think have read that stuff?
So the Bible, does anyone have the quote about why they said the Bible was important handy?
It answers fundamental questions of human existence. Oh no, that's on the
No,
origin
that's
of
the origin of
species.
species, yeah.
I was like, that doesn't seem right.
That was my head.
It's all a lie.
It was something about morality. So we'll just forget it. Which is a whole bunch of horseshit. And I can't believe that's going on in the UK. There are a whole bunch of other books that I thought were good. So, I mean, Darwin, obviously. Einstein's book on relativity is number 4. Totally get that. Isaac Newton was in 6th place. Get that. A book on DNA in 10th place. But number 2 is Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of the Universe. Or is it Brief History of Time?
Time.
It seems weird that relativity was so high up there, though. Like, I mean, it's a cool scientific concept. I just didn't really think that would be so important.
But again, I think it's not that people necessarily
It's
have
like,
read
it has
these
Einstein's
books.
name on it. Okay, bam.
I think that's a big reason why they chose most of them.
Well, I have never read Einstein's Relativity, but nor do I completely understand it. But I understand why it's super, super important to humanity, for sure. A lot more important than the Bible, although a lot less momentous so far.
Isn't there a bunch of atheists in the UK?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what.
That's what makes it so weird. Yeah.
Maybe it was like one of those
troll questions.
groupthink things where where Christians voted for it and then a bunch of atheists voted for it too, because it does.
Maybe not so much whether it's important, but momentous.
If you actually read it.
Yeah, I guess I could understand it from a perspective of having had an impact on history and humanity. For sure, the Bible's on that freaking list. I didn't think Stephen Hawking's book, I haven't read it for a long time, but because I want to say I read it in the 90s.
Isn't it like
It's super small.
Oh, it's small. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like a summing up of what we already know. So I just feel like that was not a very important book. The Quran is in there at number 8. What?
Yeah, of
Although,
all of the things.
Yeah, I don't even know how that happens in the UK. Orwell's 1984 is at number 5. I'm just baffled by this stuff. Anyway.
To Kill a Mockingbird,
Yeah.
too.
Like, I've read those books, and I think they're great, but...
Was 50 Shades of Grey on it? Gilman wants to know.
It should have been. It could be. I think you're right. It's probably just that they didn't have real choices to go for.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Newton was in there, because that was an important one. All right, so let's dive back into frickin' public schools again. There's a lot of public school stuff in here. This is a story where I kind of mostly agree with Christians, which is fun. I think I do. So I'm hoping you guys will argue with me. About a year ago, a 6-year-old at Merced Elementary School in West Covina, California. California is like the worst state in this show. I don't know how that happened. But he came to school with candy canes to give to his classmates, and the trouble started because each one had a religious message tagged to it. So it was like the story of the candy cane, and it had something to do with Jesus, which is
Blood and stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. A bunch of ridiculous
He said it was
nonsense.
bullshit.
Right. So the teacher was kind of uneasy and wasn't sure what to do. So she took the Jesus stuff off the candy canes and had him distribute it out. And allegedly, she told the kid that Jesus wasn't allowed in school. But that really just, it sounds like that Christian persecution complex crap again.
And I don't trust a 6-year-old to tell the
Well,
truth about what their teacher said.
I trust the 6-year-old. I don't trust his parents to relay the information
That too.
correctly. So, the school district released a statement saying the district's overriding concern was and is to honor and respect the beliefs of all students in matters of religion. At the present time, we do not have any reason to believe that the teacher or any other district employee had any intention other than to maintain an appropriate degree of religious neutrality in the classroom and to communicate this to the child in an age-appropriate manner. So before I poison the well with my own thoughts on this, what do you guys think?
I think that she should have just taken candy away and been like, we need to talk about this later with your parents.
I think the teacher should take the candy and ate it all in front of
Of
everyone.
course you do. Why am I not surprised?
In his face.
I don't know I think if it's being handed out by a student, then I think it's actually okay for them to hand it out.
Yeah, I think that's right. So that's where I kind of side with the religious people. If a child wants to talk about their religious faith in school,
Even if it was the parent that told her kid to do it.
okay, so now that's where I have the problem, because that's probably what's happening.
But it's still not the school, pushing it though. Even though it's technically the parent through the kid, but
do we really want to get into that though?
well, wasn't everything that every kid does
my
regurgitation of what their parents have told them to do?
No, not
at some
everything.
point?
I mean,
to a certain degree. I mean,
no, not everything. I mean, I was rebellious. I don't know
I
about
mean-
you.
I mean, we're all just a composition of things we've learned from other people and other places. So I mean,
one of my formative memories was of being called into my, and this is, I don't know how old I was. It was like 3rd or 4th grade. So I mean, I was not like very politically. Excuse me. I was not very politically astute at this point, but my mother said, hurry kids, hurry kids. And we ran into the living room and my mom was watching TV and she thrust a phone into my hand and said, call the number on that screen. And so I'm calling the number and I say, what do I say? And then she's like, as soon as they answer, just hang up. And I was like, what's going on? And it's like, it was some abortion thing. And she wanted to clog their lines, so whatever. And like at that point, and this is 3rd grade me. I turned to my mom and I was like, "That's really dumb." I handed her the phone back and went back to my He-Man toys. So I don't think you can say that kids don't have their own opinions. I mean, I have disagreements with my son and my daughter about things. So I think they can have their own ideas, but I don't think that that's what's happening here.
well,
And
it's not so much that you just regurgitate everything your parents say, but I mean, we are as a core individual, we are just a sum of things we've learned from other people and
Sure.
other books or
well,
whatever it is.
independent analysis.
Yeah. So I mean, even if it was the parents that gave him the candy to, oh, go tell your friends about Jesus and everything, that would still be okay. It's still the kid's decision whether they want to do that. I mean, like I said, the kid has the rebellious, it has the option to rebel and not do it if he doesn't want to.
So Jacob Gossip 5 in the classroom, in the chat room, apparently a teacher says the 6-year-old isn't trying to push their religion on others. If that happened in my class, I would refuse to pass it out because not everyone is Christian and we don't push religion on kids. And that's what the school district is saying, is that they were trying to maintain, respectfulness for non-Christians. I thought long and hard about this because I really do believe that kids ought to be able to express religious ideas in a classroom. My reaction to this was I thought, what would happen? What would I do if my 6-year-old came home from first grade and said, Dad, look what they gave me. It's a thing about Jesus. So the first thing is that someone would have to scrape me off the ceiling because I would freak out. And then my next reaction, because I got myself worked up, I was like, next damn day, I'm sending my kid to that classroom with a bunch of, candy canes with quotes from David G. McAfee's Disproving Christianity on it. And I'm like, send that shit home to those kids.
So is it okay?
No.
Go.
Well, I'm just going to say, and then I peeled myself off the ceiling. And I was like, that's not cool to do. This is not okay stuff to do to kids on either side. I mean, sending them with flying spaghetti monster stuff or sending them with Jesus stuff or Vishnu.
Turning your kid into a proselytizer.
Yeah. Right. But this is what they're doing because it's not just parents who are sending their kids in there. It's clergy. It's all kinds of people who are using students as proxies. I mean, you talk about these violations of the First Amendment where students are putting, Bible quotes on things and they're saying, oh, we're doing this all by themselves. No, they're not. This is not what kids do. This is not what kids are focused on. This is someone in their community, whether it's a parent, a clergy member, somebody who is encouraging them to do that. And it's the parents reaching into the public school classroom and determine and making those decisions for them.
So it's not really okay for a kid to go and proselytize in front of the class, right? So is it okay for the kid to go and talk to one kid about, his faith?
This is where...
Because then 2 kids, and then 3 kids, and then 4, and then in front of the whole class. I mean, so this loops back, because I think I talked about this on the show before, is that my son was cornered by a bunch of Christian kids and was told, you're going to hell, and, this is why. And but my son doesn't know he's an atheist. He doesn't know. If you asked him what the atheism is, he would say, what? But they asked him, where do you go to church? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, do you believe in God? And he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And they're like, you're going to hell. And he came back and told me this. So I think they have a right to do it. Your son has an awfully dirty mouth.
Well, he lives with me. But I mean, those kids have the right to say those things, except that it's also kind of bullying. So I feel like it runs afoul of other things. I don't know. I'm really conflicted.
Because I can't get on board saying that it's not okay for a kid to share his faith or whatever. So, but if it's okay for him to share his faith with one person or 2 people or 3 people, 4 people, I mean,
right.
if he's given a platform to speak in front of the class about whatever he wants, and in this case, candy with Jesus scriptures on it or whatever,
sure,
then I have to be okay with that as well.
Yeah. But then am I justified sending my 6-year-old to school with David G. McAfee quotes to send home, and those kids go and I can't imagine.
She always has the option of not doing it if she doesn't want to.
Who has the option?
Or your daughter or your son,
son.
of not, you can give here's candy canes with David G. And then he go and be like, I'd rather not. I mean, he still has the choice not to.
Wow.
You said you had a choice not to dial the abortion number, and
right.
then you just didn't.
But I mean, if I wanted to be a dickhole parent, I could say, I'm going to call your teacher and make sure you did this, or you're grounded. I mean, there are ways of coercing a child to do what you want, right? I mean, here's some candy, get in the van.
I don't know. I would never coerce a child to do something so heinous.
And I guess that's what I'm saying is that after I peeled myself off the ceiling, I'm like, I would never put my kids in that situation. It's not something I would do. But other parents have no such, compunction.
And is it necessarily wrong though either for them to do? I mean, yes and no, sorta. I mean, if you taught them science and you told them to go spread science at school, I mean, that would be okay. It just so happens to be an opinion that you don't agree with. Being that it's Christianity.
Yeah, but what would happen if I did what they're doing? What would the reaction be? You know what would happen?
They get mad, just like you did, because his opinion you don't agree with.
Sure. Right. But you know what they would do? Because they have the power, they would shut it all down. And it would be, they're like, if I can have my Christians only club, no one can do anything. So I almost feel like that's the way to go.
So go for it, man.
Yeah, I almost feel that way. Does anyone want to disagree? Are you even listening, Susan? No. Okay.
I was reading the other stories.
Thank you for listening to Atheist Airwaves, sponsored by Corpus Christi Atheists of the South Texas Coalition of Reason. If you would like to compliment, complain, or make a suggestion, please write to us at god@atheistairwaves.com. Thanks to Tombstone to Dead Man for our outro music. Thanks to Rev for playing footsie with me just now.
It was super intentional. I totally want.
If you would like to hear what we're going to talk about in the post show, you can go to patreon.com/Atheist Airwaves and donate at least $1 to making our show more broadly heard, because people need to be infected with this garbage.
Best kind of garbage.
Today we're going to be talking about Danielle Moscato, PR director of American Atheists, coming out as a transgender woman. We're going to talk about whether not dating members of the same sex is sexist, and something else. What were you
preferring? The
breakup text.
Yeah.
Oh, the breakup text. Yeah. So go to patreon.com and get access to that weekly. See you guys.
Bye.
Being a skeptic means so much more than being an atheist. And until you accept that, you won't relate to this. That cognitive dissonance that you experience is when there's things you claim to believe in but ain't living it. Most of you say you are the type to question everything until I hear the conspiracy theories that you're echoing. And when I scrutinize the things you try to say are lies, expose your sources as suspect, I see your logic dies. Some still believe in pseudosciences, engage in special freedom when theists use the exact same reasoning. I've even seen atheists use arguments from ignorance and seem pressed to tell me exactly just what the difference is. A skeptic without the ability to analyze is just as bad as the theist, because he'll probably accept a lie. Just as long as it verifies all his biases, applying it to his knowledge pool, and then he's diving in. So I'm not saying that some conspiracies do not exist. I'm just saying that a lot of them are some bullshit. So I'll call a spade no matter who asserts it. Nobody's perfect, and just one lie, then it's all perverted. Bring down the curtains on that sad display. The only ways to question yourself and all the things you say. Start the day, and maybe we can rise above and be examples for others to emulate, and that's the way we win this battle. So this is where I'm making my stand, and now regardless who don't like it or how they get mad, see why the rest of y'all capitulate and go with the plan. I'll be beating on this wall until I'm breaking my hand. So listen while I state official policy. No matter how I'm threatened with hell, they never silence me. I know that you don't see this as imperative, but I refuse to lose and let the stupid frame the narrative.